Today it's in the 70s, but remember 1 year ago today?
Wow, weather conditions are quite different on this opening day of deer gun season, but that's not the only thing experts say will be different this year.
And a North Dakota native honors World War II veterans from his hometown by making a movie where you can see it this weekend.
And yes, temperatures are headed down, but still considerably above average for this time of the year. All the details right around the corner on KX News.
This is KXMB CBS 12, Bismarck. Now, KX News at 6.
No, this isn't weather from last year. This was the scene in Hebron exactly 1 year ago today. Aren't we lucky? Good evening, I'm Lauren Culver.
And I'm Tom Gerhardt. Thanks for joining us tonight on KX News. Last November 6th, the first blizzard of the 08-09 winter hit North Dakota and hit it hard. 6 to 10 inches of snow fell in a matter of hours, shut down the interstate. In fact, the following day, if you remember, schools in most of North Dakota used a snow day. Here's a look back.
I might need to call in to my work because I'm supposed to work tomorrow. I have no idea if we're gonna get there or
might not make it.
So.
And today, 1 year later, deer gun season opens with temps in the 70s.
Wow, what do you think of that?
Personally, I like it, but I've heard from folks who would like to have what we had last year, so it just depends who you ask. So this really kind of bears to mind, what do averages mean? For instance, the average high for the day is 44. And yet last year we had upper 20s to near 30. Today in the mid 70s. So the average of 44. Well, if you take last year and this year and combine it, then the average is 50, and that represents neither one of these days, last year or this year. So it's just one of those things that you get these extremes, and sooner or later you have to come up with an average. Temperatures today right around 57 to 60 degrees across the area, and that's anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees warmer than it was yesterday at this time. Nothing on the radar. There you go, cooling off, but still looking really good for the next few days.
Really
I'll tell you
nice.
what coming up.
No jacket required.
No.
Thanks, Tom.
It is opening day of the deer gun season. At noon, tens of thousands of hunters took to the fields. With a harsh winter and wet spring, hunters will face new challenges. Reporter Kate Schell has more.
It's quite a different sight today than it was just 1 year ago when deer hunters took to the fields for opening day.
Of course, North Dakota and the weather can vary from year to year, and we're seeing that this year. Last year, we had 2 feet of snow on the ground, and there were major roads still blocked, and a lot of the side roads and prairie trails were blocked for the whole season.
Opening day this year is another story. It's sunny with temperatures in the 70s.
I think weather like this is much better for people to get out hunting. The roads are all open. They can safely travel down a highway to their destination. They don't have to worry about tearing up roads and fields because it's wet and messy out there. And there's no excuse for not getting out of the truck and getting their boots a little dusty today because the weather is very, very nice.
If the projections are right, a lot of people will be dirtying their boots. The Game and Fish Department estimates 1 in every 6 North Dakotans will head to the fields during deer hunting season. And in those fields, standing crops that farmers have yet to harvest.
That can have an effect on deer movements. People will have to hunt a little harder and change their techniques a little bit more. In some places, it may have an effect on the overall harvest, but they had to deal with standing crops and sunflowers over the years, you know, and they manage.
Hunters will have fewer deer to hunt this season. 2 aerial deer surveys show a decline in the population due to the harsh winter.
But even more significant than the losses that you experience during the winter of the animals that are out there is the lack of reproductive success. Does the next year have fewer fawns, and sometimes they don't have any fawns because of the stress of winter.
The Game and Fish Department says roughly 100,000 deer will be killed across the state. With KX News, I'm Kate Schell.
The state started with 144,400 hunting licenses, and as of today, 96% of those licenses have been issued.
Love the sport of hunting, but your freezer fills up too fast. Any extra venison you aren't planning on keeping, the Sportsmen Against Hunger program will put to use. The program fills food pantries with donated deer meat. The program has funds to accept 700 deer statewide. Karen Edwards with Community Action says meat products are hard to come by, and food pantries are saying they'll take all they can get.
The need for meat, any type of protein type product is extremely high. Community Action ourselves, we serve over 180 families a month just for food pantries. That's not to count any of the other agencies in town that serve.
Due to the scare of lead being found in the meat, the program will not accept any deer shot in the hindquarters. There are nearly 30 processors in the state accepting deer for the program. If you have a deer you'd like to donate, you can log on to cap7.com, or you can call toll-free 800-726-7960 to find a processor near you.
The Highway Patrol says it seized 110 pounds of marijuana during a traffic stop on I-94 in Mandan. Authorities said a 24-year-old California man and a 20-year-old Wisconsin man are in jail. They say the marijuana was packed in heat-sealed bags in the utility boxes of a service-type truck. The patrol said the marijuana was discovered by a patrol dog after the truck was stopped for a traffic violation Thursday night. The street value of that marijuana is estimated at more than $100,000.
A Bismarck man's murder trial is pushed back. Matthias Zimprich is accused of murdering his 74-year-old wife, Ludwina, in May. Scheduled to go to trial in December. However, defense attorney Tom Dixon asked for more time. Judge Bruce Amanek says the court will try to schedule the trial in March. Ludwina died from blunt force trauma to the head. At the time of the murder, Matthias was undergoing serious chemotherapy, aggressive radiation therapy, and was on a number of medications. He has pleaded not guilty to the charge of murder and remains in custody.
While teens are not allowed to buy cigarettes and other tobacco products until they are 18, it is still happening. A compliance check of stores in southwest North Dakota found 12 retailers sold to minors. That's out of the 65 they checked. During the checks, teens under 18 went into stores to try to buy tobacco products. Of the 12 stores who sold, 9 asked for an ID and still sold. 31% of youth smoke in southwestern North Dakota. That's compared to 27% in the state.
He's worked with stars like Mariah Carey and Adrian Peterson of the Vikings. But the subject of North Dakota native Cody Shimmick's latest project holds a special place in his heart. Shimmick put together a 1-hour film on World War II veterans from his hometown of Watford City. It's called Small Town Soldiers. Shimmick says he's always been a history buff. He says when he was 13, he and his father ran into a veteran at a local cafe. Shimmick says with that chance encounter, World War II became more than what he'd read about in the history books.
So it was me that they got.
And when he walked in, he said, "Oh, there's old Jim Taylor in the corner." So we had breakfast with Jim. And Jim proceeded to tell me how he was on the USS Bunker Hill when it was kamikazed. And for me, up to that point, you know, history was always sort of World War II documentaries on the History Channel. I didn't realize that someone from, you know, the Chuck Wagon Cafe might have one of these amazing stories.
Small Town Soldiers plays tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Confluence Center near Williston, and you can see it in the Bismarck area at the Heritage Center Sunday at 2 p.m. The film is free, and it's open to the public. Shimmick says it's not yet set in stone, but he's hopeful Small Town Soldiers will air on PBS in North Dakota next year.
Something to see. Stay with us. Still to come in news, a custom frame and stained glass shop will be closing. Tonight, what the owner has planned in this week's edition of Around Town.
And one local animal lover wants you to do your part to help reduce pet overpopulation.
Up next is your full forecast. Keep it here. You're watching KX News at 6.
From KXMB CBS 12, this is KX News at 6. News with Tom Gerhardt and Lauren Crick. Meteorologist Tom Szymanski's weather. And sports with Dan Williamson.
You could be the next big winner when you play North Dakota